Alice.
Good morning, Nadine.
Good morning. Lovely, lovely, lovely to have you on and to be able to speak to you this morning. We were remembering when we had met and we spoke about our wonderful friend Claire Dale, who wrote the book Physical Intelligence. Wasn't that amazing? That we were kind of there at the concept when she started thinking about it, and then we see the physical book.
I know. Such an important book as well.
Yeah, such an important book. And then we kind of realised that we had these interests, that we were both interested in music, and we were both interested in coaching and mentoring and everything else. Did you hear me there? Oh, I seem to have lost you. I lost you there for a second.
And I don't know what's happened because I've suddenly lost you.
Yeah.
And nothing has happened this end and my internet is high.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? You can hear me? Hey, morning, Lena. Morning, Lena.
I'm going to go out and come back in.
Okay. All right. Morning, Ian. How are you? Lovely to see you. Alice is just going to come back in and go back out, and we're just going to be there. Yeah. Hey, sorry. We don't know what happened there, but morning, Ian. Morning, Lena. Lovely to see you both. So, it's 9:01 and I'm Nadine Benjamin, the Intuitive Verdi Soprano. I am a certified NLP mind coach. I'm a certified high performance coach, and I'm also a professional opera singer. And I love championing, celebrating and connecting people. And I have been on 12 weeks safe at home. And so because I'm on 12 weeks safe at home, I thought I would share the wonderful wealth of people that I know and some of the coaching skills that I have along the way. So this morning, wherever she is, morning, Stephanie, we have the wonderful Alice Wallace. Alice has worked in the charity sector most of her life, with forays into self-employment and local authorities, and she's still working within local charities. Alice is passionate about improving people's health and well-being, which has led to some interesting roles. She has been a homeopath and Reiki practitioner. She's been a community activist, worked with local mines to equip blue light personnel with the tools for self-care, and most recently has been the CEO of Opening Doors London, working specifically with older people from the LGBT communities. So wonderful to have you on, Alice. So wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. It's lovely being here.
As I normally say, everybody, we are not medical doctors and we're not psychiatrists, but if you have those needs, please reach out and get them. If you know somebody who you think needs a telephone call or just needs that support, please also just reach out to them. Really, really important. And if you have any questions for Alice today, please feel free to ask Alice any questions that you could possibly want. She's open to answering them if she can. So morning, Alice.
Good morning.
So tell us, I mean, you've worked in the charity sectors for most of your life. Morning, Catherine. Can you tell us, how did that start and how did you become interested in that?
So I guess my life in the charity sector probably started when I was about 17, when I was still at school, and I became aware of a community of Vietnamese refugees being relocated into the area in West Yorkshire where I lived. And so I organised events to welcome them to the local area. So I guess that was my sort of first foray into doing something quote unquote charitable. And I later became an alternative health practitioner. And as part of that, I worked in various community centres, what I was doing there was sharing skills with women to look after themselves, stress management, assertiveness, other ways to engage in self-care. And from that, I started working with the management committees, the people running the centres, and helping them think about what they were doing, how they were doing it, what other support they could pull in. And from there, working to organisations, supporting people running local groups through to large service providers, And I've worked for local, regional, sub-regional, national organisations. Sometimes I say frontline, sometimes being more sort of the infrastructure or business support side of things. But I guess the theme all the way through that has been about supporting people, developing people, developing communities. So I guess that was kind of the thread. And I guess the sort of what's attracted me to the charity sector in particular is an ethos that I think runs through all good charities, actually all through all good organisations, which is an ethos of nothing about us without us, which is about not doing to people, even if it's good stuff. You don't do to people. It's about involving people. It's about involving communities in identifying what the issues and the problems are that they think are the most important for them. Then involving those people in co-designing solutions, and involving those people in sometimes in delivering in delivering those meaningful outcomes for them. About making a real difference, learning from each other, skill sharing, respecting each other.
I mean, running a charitable organisation has so many different levels, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
And does one, I suppose, as a CEO, do you have to be kind of quite flexible in how you work?
Absolutely, because there's no you can have your lovely plan for the week, and you really don't know what's going to come in from left field at all. And it's a very, very varied job, and get to meet some fabulous people. Sometimes I wish I had more time to actually be with the people who we're working with and supporting, rather than doing what I spend an awful lot of time doing, which is fundraising, networking, creating new opportunities, risk management, all those other aspects.
So what's that difference been like, from being on the ground, so to speak, and then turning into management? Has that been a difficult transition or a challenging transition?
Not really, because I think throughout the number of years that I've been working in the charity sector, or working generally, I've been the volunteer, I've been the project worker, I've been on the management committee, so I've been a trustee. And so slowly worked up and developed those skills and those networks, which are incredibly important as you climb the ladder, I think, because you need that support, you need those networks to help you be the best that you can.
Wonderful. So tell me, you are the CEO of Opening Doors London. Morning, Susan. Morning, Anne. So could you tell me a little bit more about Opening Doors London, or tell us a bit more about Opening Doors London?
Sure. Well, Opening Doors London is the only charity in the UK working specifically with people who are older people, rather. So working specifically with older people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and/or trans. We started off back in the early noughties as a project within Age UK Camden, and in 2016 became a charity in our own right. And so now we have over 2,000 members from London and elsewhere in the UK. So although we're still Opening Doors London, because that's where our roots are, and that's where the majority of our members currently are, and that's where our main part of our service delivery rests. Actually, we are a national organisation, and I think that this pandemic, it's never let a good crisis go to waste. We've seen need come up, and we've responded to it. So we are very much a national charity now, and we're primarily about addressing isolation and loneliness, and we also work with mainstream organisations to help them better understand the needs and experience of older LGBT people. So we provide training, consultancy, and we launched a couple of years ago a national quality standard called Pride in Care, which is available for any organisation that wants to evidence that it's providing inclusive services.
Okay, wow.
So in terms of what we do for older LGBT people, prior to lockdown, we were delivering over 40 activities and events every month to encourage people to get together, to meet new people, to maintain friendships, to have fun. We also supported around between 80 and 100 people through the befriending service. So that was our more vulnerable, less mobile members. We also provided, and still do, but specialist support to those affected by dementia, for LGBT carers, for people from BAME communities, and for trans and non-binary people. And why ODL is particularly important is that I think many older gay men in particular had their friendships, their friendship circles decimated the last time this country experienced a pandemic. So many lost many friends during the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. I remember talking to one of our members, and he said he'd had a sad morning because he was looking through some photos, and there's a picture of him with a dozen of his friends on a blanket up on Hampstead Heath having a picnic. And he said, after the AIDS crisis, there was only 2 of us left. Wow. Yeah. And so a lot of them, are still carrying that grief, that hurt, and experiencing a lot more anxiety, I think, than most of us, because it's bringing up, during now and the COVID-19 pandemic, because it's bringing up memories of what happened previous. And I think also as we get older, it can be harder to maintain friendships, and certainly harder to make new friendships. And many of our members, especially the older ones, I think, were rejected by birth families. I think it still happens today, with younger LGBT people as well. But especially for our members, they tend not to have those intergenerational networks. So no children, no nephews and nieces, no grandchildren. And so that can be really isolating. I think many do have good friendship circles, but they tend to be people of a similar age. So if something goes wrong for one of them, it'll go wrong for all of them.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So what kind of, morning, Marjorie? What kind of events or activities? You say you kind of put on 40 events, and you've got a befriending service, and what kind of events would you put on?
Well, we had a whole range of regular things. So there would be closed groups, but with an activity, with a focus. So it might be, a book club, it might be creative writing group, it might be a walking group, but it is closed to older people from the LGBT community. And it was interesting because I was talking to a relatively new member. This was a few months back, obviously, and said to well, hello, welcome. Haven't seen you before. Whereabouts do you live? And he lived in Belsize Park, which some people will know is a nice area in North London. And I said, there's lots of community activities go on there. Do you get involved with any of them? And he said, well, yes, I do. But he said, I just get tired. He said, because the people are very nice, and the first time you meet them, they hello, how are you, and welcome. Second time, they want to know a bit more about you, and third time, it's getting a bit personal, a bit more personal than I feel comfortable with. He says, I'm just so tired of having to constantly brace myself to come out to somebody when I don't know what their reaction's going to be.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Yeah. He says, I come along to ODL activities and events, and I don't have to explain myself, and yet I'm still understood.
Yeah.
And I just thought, that's really powerful. Yeah.
Because that's the work that you want to do.
And in terms of I mentioned the sort of regular things that we do. And includes things like there's coffee and cake and quite low key things and film clubs and whatever. We're also really lucky to have support from some corporate organisations who will put on things with a bit more sparkle, things that we wouldn't normally be able to afford to do for members. And that's really, really, really nice, really fun to be able to just add a bit of a bit of sparkle to people's lives that maybe they wouldn't otherwise have.
And you were saying that you've now got a new telephone service that you didn't used to have before. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the branding service was face to face, so we'd match an older LGBT person with a volunteer. And I think what's really interesting is the benefit that a lot of our younger volunteers get from volunteering and meeting people who are a bit older, because they don't necessarily have older gay role models in their lives. They might actually, you know, if they've moved to London for work purposes, not have any older people in their lives. So that again, that intergenerational lack, and so they get a sense of their own community history by talking to older LGBT people. You know, I've heard some of the younger volunteers say, well, I knew it was hard back in the day, but OMG, I didn't realise how hard. I didn't realise, you know, that you could lose your job or that you could, you know, lose custody battles because of the discrimination and prejudice that existed. And so so with the pandemic, one thing we've done is move everything. We've had to move all of our activities and things onto either telephone or online. So the telephone befriending service is something that we'd been piloting, thank goodness, that we were able to then, we'd got all the paperwork, we'd got all the processes set up, we'd got all the checks, you know, we knew exactly what we were doing, so we could then move the clients over.
How many people were accessing the telephone service before the pandemic, and how many afterwards?
And again, give me a minute.
Lost her again. Morning, Marjorie. Morning, Melanie. Melanie's saying great interview. Lovely to see you all. I think we've just lost her for a second, everybody. She'll come back. So until we get her back, we'll be coming into the weekend. And as I always say in the weekend, just the sun is, I'm sure, going to be shining this weekend. But, oh, here she is. She's coming back. Hello, she's back.
I really don't know what's happening with this. I do apologise.
Don't worry.
So you were asking
quickly. We'll get you back with it. But Melanie Jean Burke is just saying great interview, which is lovely.
Oh, thank you. So you were asking about how many people were accessing the service. In January, so generally we have between 80 and 100 people, depending on what the issues are we're supporting with them with in the befriending service specifically. In January, February, we had 3 new referrals, and in March, April, we had 83 new referrals.
Wow. So you've gone from 2 to 3, and in the pandemic, gone to 83. And
83 new people coming on.
So how many phone calls did you have to make when the pandemic started?
Gosh, well, in the first 6 weeks, I think we made around 1,000 phone calls.
Wow.
Because we wanted to make sure that people had that. Well, but basically, people were okay. You know, we.
Oh, we've lost her again. Imagine 1,000. You've gone from 83. That's new referrals, and then the pandemic starts, and you have to reach out to like 1,000 people to check that 1,000. Yeah, to check that 1,000 people are okay. That's quite
And so having so many people not having those intergenerational networks means nobody helping them get food deliveries.
Yes.
It means no one to help them with their medical issues and make sure they've got enough medication, or contacting their care agency if their carer hasn't turned up. No one to check that they weren't being abused or raise safeguarding concerns, which is why ODL is just so important.
Yeah.
And as you might imagine, you know, it's not just the increase in demand, but it's also the complexity of the issues that we're dealing with. You know, in terms of, well, I think it's been challenging. The last few weeks have been challenging for all of us, I think. But we've certainly seen an increase in or deterioration in people's mental health. I mean, having said that, you know, some people are also incredibly resilient as well. But like, for example, you know, one of the questions we asked was, you know, do you actually have food in the house, you know, in your home? And one person said, well, yes, yeah, I've still got 3 tomatoes left, but then when they're gone, that's it. And somebody else said, well, I've been living on cereal for the last 2 weeks, and I've got a box left, so I should be okay for the next week.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
But they weren't complaining.
No,
And
I
then,
know, I hear you. I literally hear that.
yeah,
But just the thought of that, like, somebody living on cereal for 2 weeks, morning Claire, people living on cereal for 2 weeks, or saying that they've only got 3 tomatoes. I mean, the only way I can identify with that is because I've been safe at home. um, I have literally relied on, my friends, and it just happens that my friends were LGBT friends as well, that were helping me, to, going shopping for me every couple of weeks. And, even the other day, I had my shopping delivered of all the things that I needed, because they just love and care about me, and they just wanted to make sure that I was okay. And and I was on the last of my stuff as well. And, you just think to yourself, actually, you know, I'm relatively fit and healthy in terms of my lifestyle, but like in terms of somebody else, that it might not be okay. And so when I hear that, I just go,
And
because,
so, somebody asked me, said, well, why didn't they reach out to their neighbour, or, and ask for help? And I think it comes down very much to fear.
yeah,
I don't know if you saw in the Guardian newspaper only a couple of months ago, they reported that 17% of people in this country still feel that same-sex relationships are wrong, and that the people in same-sex relationships should be criminalised. And so they don't want to reach out, because they don't want to be, they're fearful of the reaction, they're fearful of rejection and being further ostracised.
yeah, yeah.
And of people maybe knowing that they are gay, and what they might do with that information. So a lot of fear about, which is at sort of another level.
Yeah. Marjorie Overy is just saying that level of deprivation is quite shocking. Yeah.
The other thing that I found shocking as well through those phone calls was that the level of the number of people who had access who did not have access to the internet at all.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
we know that around 20% of our members don't, but but the people who we were contacting, who were the most vulnerable, and those who we were taking on into the befriending service, that rose to well over 40% of them didn't have access to the internet. And some of those who do don't necessarily know how to use it, don't feel confident with it. They might be able to pick up an email or use Facebook perhaps, but joining a Zoom chat or some, that's beyond. And the other thing that really, really got to me, I'm filling up even thinking about it now, was that the new referrals into the befriending service, only one of them had somebody close enough that they could count as next of kin.
Oh, wow.
And only one person had someone close enough that they felt comfortable enough giving us their phone number in case of emergency.
Wow.
I just thought it's absolutely tragic, and links back to what I was saying about isolation and vulnerability.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I feel so happy that we've kind of talked about this today. I mean, I just, Claire Penderton is saying, I just wish we had more tolerance and understanding in this world, more prejudice. We need to stand up for anyone that feels in a minority with no voice or lonely. And Claire, it's such a real thing. I mean, I had another talk with Michael, who is a conductor, Michael Crouchley Young, and our live session was about bullying, and we were talking about what we had been bullied for. And I was bullied because of my sexuality. I was bullied because I came from a really poor family. I was bullied because I was bright. I was bullied because I didn't look like everybody else. And this level of how what Brian Colbert was talking about the stories that we make up in our minds about what other people should be, or or what we think should happen, or it's just heartbreaking. Whereas we have to come to a place where we can just see the person, because if we're thinking about something that happened to us that makes it mean that that person is that person in that moment, then we're not with the person, you know. And it's just, yeah, it's a, as we know, it's a massive subject at the moment, but you know, it's always you know, a really oh, I feel moved, you know, a moving thing when you hear of another minority that is also in that space as well, in terms of where, you know, and yeah. So, you know, Lena Christmas is saying, I was thrown out of the RAF for being gay in the early 80s. Scary time for me. I'm so sorry, Lena. You know, the Royal
Yeah.
Air Force, you're in the Royal Air Force, and, you know, she's saying she was, you know, found out that she was gay and she's thrown out. So, you know, I'm sure there will be other people, Lena, in those situations that you most probably have in Opening Doors London that you're now befriending and having taken on, Alice. So it's, your service is very, 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 very much needed, and I really appreciate. I really appreciate, and I'm sure some of the people watching here, you know, are thinking the same thing. That we really appreciate that there's somebody there for them.
Yes. And I think, you know, in this country we have got really good equality legislation, but it's all relatively recent.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't know if now I won't put you on the spot.
Don't put
Yeah,
me on the spot.
but
I've had
if you
enough
think
of
about
that this week. I've had enough of that this week. Thanks very much.
but the age of consent was only equalised in 2001.
Yes. Yeah.
It only became illegal to fire somebody because of their sexuality in 2003.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Relationships were only recognised by law as something good,
Mm.
and when we were able to have civil partnerships for the first time in 2005. The Equality Act, giving, you know, protected characteristics, wasn't until 2010, and same-sex marriage only came in 6 years ago in 2014. And since then, you know, we know there's been Brexit, and we know there's been the tide has slightly turned, and people have felt that it's okay to express negative attitudes and behaviours, and we've seen a rise of hate crime across all
Yeah.
communities.
Yeah.
So I think we've really got to be very mindful of that fact and not take our equalities for granted at all,
Yeah.
and to make sure that we do build links across all communities, because
Yeah.
we need each other.
We do. We do.
We need each other, and we're not all. You know, I don't know any one person who has only one identity.
Mm.
You know, so somebody might be older and gay. They might be older, gay and black. They might be older, lesbian and disabled. They might be older, lesbian, gay and disabled and black. You know, so all those different characteristics and different parts of themselves that they're maybe revealing to different people at different times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's how we can make a world where people feel safe to bring their whole self
Mm.
to situations, you know, and feel that they've got a choice about which parts of them they bring and reveal.
Yeah. Marjorie Ivry was saying, does Alice think that we've really moved on as a society?
In some ways, I think yes. And in some ways, some days I you know, read things like that, you know, that are reported in the Guardian, and I think, oh gosh, have we? And then I look at my own dad, who's a white working class northerner,
Mm.
and you know, when I was growing up, being gay was just not a thing. You know,
No.
it wasn't something he would have given countenance to. And yet now, if there was an award for proudest gay dad, you know,
Oh,
he could probably get awarded. He you know, quite happily sort of out me to everybody and anybody, and proudly. And I
yeah.
have to sort of say to him, look, Dad, you know, the man digging a hole in the road really doesn't need to know that I'm a lesbian. And he's
Yeah.
going, are you ashamed of yourself then? I'm like, no, but they don't really need to know.
Arden Haslam was just saying, I so agree and hope that good will shine through tolerance and love. So, you know, could you give, us kind of 3 tips if we were wanting to think about going into the charity sector? What would 3 tips be that you think we could?
Well, I think think about the things that are important to you. So think about what, is there a cause or a particular community that you'd be particularly interested, either because it's an issue close to your heart, or you're part of that community, or they're a community in need. And think about volunteering. Volunteering is a great way to get to know an organisation, to get to know how it operates, to get to know the people, both people who are working and involved in the delivery, but also the people that organisation's working with. You get to know the needs that they're trying to address and the opportunities, and there's so many different roles that you can play as a volunteer. I mean, in Opening Doors London, volunteers support all aspects of our work. Whether it's administrative, marketing and comms, policy, training, the delivery of Pride in Care, facilitating groups, befriending, fundraising. All those things are really interesting and really useful for us. And look on the charities' websites if they have one, or call in. And sometimes, what we try and do is we advertise specific roles. But I always say to people, if you've got a specific skill set that you think would be useful for us, let us know.
Yeah.
So for example, somebody recently came along saying, "Oh, I want to help telephone befriending," and Chrissy, who's our volunteer coordinator, went, "Oh, hold on a minute. You've also got these skills. Would you mind helping?" So they actually did some coaching for me on a couple of issues, which was really, really useful, of course. I'd say also, helping charities fundraise, it's always a challenge for us, especially now when needs going up and there's more competition for funds. And you can have fun doing that as well. I think, putting fun back into fundraising is always
lovely.
always worth
Fun back into fundraising. I love it.
And just supporting a charity of your choice in whatever way works for you.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, being clear about how much time and effort and energy you want to put into it, so you're managing the charity's expectations and you're not overcommitting.
Yeah.
That's important. It is, because you don't want a charity to think, "Oh, we've got somebody sort of 5 days a week," when actually what you want to do is give them an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. So Teresa Elwes is just saying clause 28 existed until 2003. And Catherine Tyler says, "Thank you both. Wish I could stay but teaching this morning." Bye, Catherine. Thank you so much. So, I mean, it's just been wonderful to talk to you. It's so wonderful and to think that you're the only charity that does that.
There are other charities that do work with older LGBT people, but we are the only one working specifically with this community.
It's just been so. If specifically, just because I love the work that you do and I support you as well, like in any way that I can. I come and sing when I can and all the rest of it. So if somebody specifically wanted to get involved with Opening Doors London, what would be a good way to do that?
At the moment, our biggest need is fundraising. So whether that's running your own fundraising events and donating, or if it's just buying our new T-shirt, which is called "Love Is Not Cancelled."
Oh, lovely!
Which you may,
okay.
We've been supported by Little Gay Brother, which is a gay festival collective, and they said, "What can we do for you?" And they printed this T-shirt, and all the proceeds are coming to us. And I think they've raised about £8,000 for us, which has meant that we've been able to increase the capacity in the befriending team, which has meant we can support more people.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for being with us today. What an interesting work to talk about. We have so many varied people on this live chat session, so it's just great that we can be here for each and every one. And on Monday we're going to have Anne Haslam, and Anne Haslam is a breathwork person, so she's going to come on and talk with us about how the breath works, the importance of it, and give us a few tips on how to make sure that we're connecting fully with our breath. I'm really excited about that one. it's really nice, because everybody has a different skill to offer, and just like volunteering, it's a wonderful thing when the skill that you love or the thing that you're passionate about, as I can see you are, Alice, is wonderful. And I want to thank you for the work that you are doing, because you know, I know full well what that feels like when you feel that there's nobody there for you, or that there's no community that you can actually feel comfortable in. And I just think the work that you're doing is just so important. And I know I've heard the stories when it is challenging to keep it afloat, to keep it going, and your sheer resilience to just keep marching and to just keep marching and saying, I'm going to stay with this because I know people need this. And then, for the pandemic to happen, and then for you to realize how many people really, 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 really do need this. Is quite shocking, and why they need it. So, and as I keep saying that, our rights are human rights, and it's that thing, of all of us connecting and showing up in a way that we can serve, so we can all be connected, and that we can all see each other, So thank you for all the amazing, amazing work that you do. Now, before I leave today, or before we leave today, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Pardon me. I think that we can all make a difference. And I think it's important to remember that. I think it was Marianne Williamson said that playing small serves no one. And I think she's right. I think everyone can make a positive difference to another person.
Yeah.
And I think you can be anything you want to be. So be kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And everybody, as I normally say, it's the weekend, and don't make, if you can, just work with being in your power and celebrating the time that you have with your family, your friends. If there's someone that you really want to connect with them. Plan, schedule your time, especially if you're still in this safe at home time. You know, don't let the time go away without you saying, actually, I do want to commit to having 4 hours of Netflix time, or I do want to sleep for the whole day. I'm claiming tomorrow I'm sleeping all day. I've had a very emotional week, and I feel like I need to just rest. So that is going to be my self-care tomorrow. I'm going to spend my whole time sleeping. The other thing is, I wanted to say, remember, Brian Colbert still has it's that offering for the next couple of weeks of to take a group of people through the happiness habit, the path to a better life. It's all based on NLP. He's fabulous. And if you do want to do that, please send me an email to nadsunflower, NAD at hotmail.com, because we would love to have you in the group, and he would love to have you in the group and take that happiness habit forward, especially for those who are transitioning now and are going to find that they have to do different things. And yeah, just thank you. And to just remind you that next week will most probably be my last week before I take a week off. I think I would have done nearly 70 shows or 70 live chat sessions with everybody. And yeah, and I don't know, I mean, we can keep talking. Maybe I come back and do a couple of shows a week rather than every day like that I have been doing. But we can have a talk about it. I'm open and interested to any ideas that anybody has, because I have loved doing this. I have loved serving, and I have loved connecting and championing and celebrating everybody here, and the organisations such as Opening Doors London and other people that have been with me along this journey. And I want to thank everybody for being along, because there are some wonderful people: Lena Christmas, Teresa Elwes, Marjorie Uvery, Claire Pendleton, Melanie Jean, Susan Pentland, Stephanie Murphy, people that have kept coming back to this space. Rebecca Louisedale, trying to remember all the people off the top of my head that I keep seeing every morning. But I just want you to know that your journey has been my journey, and my journey has been your journey. We've been in this together, and I just want to thank you for the connection and the company that we have made together. And I will never forget this moment. I just won't. It will, But I'm here for another week at least. So let's keep talking, and we'll see where we go from there. So take care. Have a really amazing weekend, and thank you so much, Alice. It's been so wonderful to to have you. Thank you, Marjorie. Take care. Bye bye.